Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Neighbor repeatedly parked in my handicapped parking spot, entire neighborhood hated her. Hello there everyone. Boy, do I have a story for you guys today. I do not really care to go into too much detail about how I lost my leg, because it is a sensitive topic for me. However, I would like to tell you that I lost my leg in a medical accident and was blessed enough to learn how to walk again after I received a new prosthetic and a physical therapy. This story takes place in my residence, and it centers around a recent dispute I had with my not-so-friendly neighbor. The winter months are pretty rough where I live, with snow and ice frequently covering our streets and neighborhood. With the way my neighborhood is set up, parking is pretty tight in front of our houses, but there is a small area across the street from us where we can park. In the winter months, I park in front of my house because the snow and ice make it harder for me to walk across the street. As a matter of fact, when I first was getting comfortable with my prosthetic leg, during the first winter several of my neighbors witnessed me falling on the ice several times. It was pretty embarrassing, but they were all kind and helped me back up. However, the new neighbor I had next door was not so nice. You see, there was a special handicapped spot near my residence door, and I parked there every winter. I had a special sign to hang up in my window and everything, and of course most of my neighbors were very understanding and accommodating. However, that changed when the older lady next door moved in. She had begun parking in this spot, and while I do not consider myself an entitled person, the parking was already limited, and she never had a handicapped sign in her window. I had just assumed that she did not want to walk across the snow, ice, and while that is completely understandable, if she had a medical condition that prevented her from walking across the street in the snowy months, then she should have the special handicapped or disabled placard hanging in her window. She did not, so that is already a parking violation. I thought that it was just a one-time thing at first, but then she kept parking there. Before she got in trouble for not having the special placard or received a ticket or something like that, I had decided to write her a note and put it on her windshield. I was stern in my note, but I was not at all rude and explained the situation with my prosthetic leg and how I had felt safer parking in the handicapped spot because of the numerous falls and slips I had had in the beginning of my journey. I even told her in my note that I had the special placard for it. Well, she did not like that one bit. I honestly did not expect such a rude response out of her, and it really made me upset. My request for her not to park there had made her so upset, that she decided to stick a rude note back on my car. The note read, "Hey Handicap. First, never place your ducking hands on my car again. Second, honey, you are not the only one with struggles. Who do you think you are? You want pity to go to a one-leg support group. You messed with the wrong one. I do not care what your note said, so you can shove it, but you touch my car again I will file a report. I am not playing. I let the office know the crybaby one leg touches my property I will cause trouble, so to go cry your struggles to someone who cares because I am walking away with mine." Neighbor's first and last name. I was so stunned. I was at a loss for words. First, she was extremely rude to me for no reason. Second, she was using my disability against me and practically shaming me for it. All I asked was that she not park there, especially if she did not have the handicapped card. I had decided that I wanted to do something about this. If she were this aggressive at a simple request, how much more aggressive could she get? So, I decided that I would not approach her directly. I could only run so fast, haha. So, I decided to take a picture of the note and post it to the neighborhood Facebook group. It was extremely petty of me, I will admit that, but as far as I knew she was not a member of the group yet. I knew our neighborhood had some pretty bold people, and I wondered if these people saw the post if they would confront her about it. Was it childish of me? Yes, it was. But so was the note she left me with all of the unnecessary swearing and remarks. And well, although she never apologized to me directly or confronted me directly about it, just a few weeks later she had given up on her lease already and moved out. Those who were in the Facebook group had created a buzz about the post and the rude note she left me. Multiple community members had approached her directly about it, and it turns out she was not so big and bad when confronted directly. What a shame. She had been so flustered with all of the negative attention that she was receiving that she told the apartment manager that she wanted to move out and break her lease as soon as possible. And again, she never apologized to me, but the complex manager did, and assured me they would take measure to make sure nothing like this happens again in the future. On the plus side though, I do not have to walk across the icy street anymore. The next story is titled, "Even Tinkerbell Has Had Enough." This is an old story, but it just popped into my head while I was hunting through videos on YouTube, so I figured I'd post it. This is an old story, and I can't remember exactly how all of the conversations went, so they're pretty much my recollection. Years ago, shortly after I had left the service, my girlfriend, now wife, and I moved in together, halfway across the US from both of our respective families, long stories for another time, and to a place where we both had friends as a result of our military travels. One of my wife's friends, we'll call her Anna, had gotten married in the intervening years since they had last been together and was in the process of a divorce since her husband had knocked up the checkout girl at the local orchard. She had left the home, a single wide trailer, important later, they owned, left the car they owned, which she had solely paid for, and was still in her name, moved back in with her parents, and got a second job. She already worked at a large big box retail establishment. Of course, my wife and I commiserated with her on multiple occasions about how poorly she had been treated. Anna made a remark at one point about missing her bills that month. My wife asked, "What bills? You live with your parents, you have 2 jobs, no credit cards, and you never do anything expensive. What could you possibly owe anyone money for?" It turns out that she still had a checking account linked to her ex-husband's account, and when he decided not to pay the mortgage or the car payment, they simply took it out of her account, marked the loan current, and went on with their lives. Shortly after the divorce he would make most payments, but for the last year or so, he hasn't made a single one. So ex-hubby has perfect credit because he never misses a payment, and Anna's credit is in the toilet because she is constantly late on her own bills. Anna may have 2 jobs, and not a lot of bills, cell phone, car payment, insurance. When she's making someone else's mortgage and car payments as well, she's pretty much broke, and that's why she never does anything expensive, and has to have me change her oil in my gravel driveway because she can't afford $20 for Jiffy Lube. I asked her why she didn't close the accounts and go somewhere else. Anna's answer, "But, if they miss their payments, the bank will take their house, and their car, and they have a baby. I can't do that to them. I did the Forrest Whitaker eye." Then I said, "They're taking advantage of you pretty badly. They've established that you'll pay all their bills for them, and they can do whoever the hell they want, because you'll never force the sale of the house or the car. If I had an option to pay my bills, or pass it off to someone I don't like, I'd let them do it every time. He's paying an electric bill, and getting a free house, car, and everything else. And I guarantee you that he's handing these bills to the social worker and claiming he can't afford to live, so they'll give him WIC, food stamps, and everything else. You're funding the lifestyle of an asshole who cheated on you, and a woman who knew he was married because every time she came over, she made him take your wedding pictures down, so she didn't have to look at you while she, naughty, your husband. You're paying bills for a guy who is so dumb that he thought he couldn't get a woman pregnant he wasn't married to, and a woman who thought if she had an orgasm before she came over to sleep with your husband while you were at work her egg would be gone and she couldn't get pregnant. The dumb, naughty, was using a sex toy as birth control. You see, I may not give a rip about most of my family, but you do not duck with my friends." She gives it some thought and a couple of days later asks for some help out of this. I took her to my bank to get an account the next day. She moves her direct deposit, withdraws her money, and closes her old account. The next month, ex-hubby's bills don't get paid. We're watching a movie when he calls. She spends an hour in a screaming match with him telling him to pay his own bills. She has been charitable enough, and he and his new wife can pay for their own crap. Then the penny drops. Remember earlier when I said the house was a trailer? Anna has been paying the mortgage on the trailer but not the rent for the lot it's on. They never had her checking account. This entitled prick has been assuming she's been paying that too. She assumed he had. He hasn't even figured out what's coming yet. He's calling because he's pissed off. She hasn't paid the lot rent in forever, and he's being told to pay up, move his trailer, or they'll do it and hold the trailer in arrears until the bill for moving it is paid. He's calling to ask her for another $6,000, or they'll lose the home they both loved so much. Now, up until this moment, Anna had been this sweet, wonderful, gumdrop of a person. The type of person that it should be legal to slap if they're encountered before 9 a.m. The relentlessly sunny person that you send into the room to cheer up Tinkerbell. In the better part of a year, I haven't heard this woman say a bad thing about anybody. Until tonight. Until this guy called to complain that she hadn't been paying enough of his bills. And she loses her mind. She lights into this guy that he'd better figure it out, because he's not getting another penny from her ever again, and while he's figuring out who to beg, borrow, or steal that money from, he may want to get a little extra since he's about to get the overdue notices for the house and the car too. He starts screaming so loud I can clearly hear what he's calling her from across the room before she calmly hits the end button, flips the phone over, pops the battery out, sets them both down on my table, hits play on the VCR, morphs back into her normally sunny self, and offers to make popcorn. Monday morning, she went to the lawyer, filed a no contact order, filed for bankruptcy. Her credit was already a mess. There were bills her name was on, and she didn't want that splatter all over her, and called the dealer that owned her car note, told her she couldn't make the payments anymore, and offers them a voluntary repossession, has them bring out their tow truck, and meets the driver with the keys and the paperwork. Signs them forms, asks the driver oh so sweetly to drop her off at her parents' house on the way back to the dealer, and waves at her ex from the passenger seat of the tow truck as he comes running out of the trailer wearing only a towel. Over the course of the next month or two, he lost his job because he couldn't get to work anymore. His wife had to go back to weighing pears at the orchard. Turns out she'd left her job when Anna was paying for everything, and sell his record collection, which was what he'd been spending his money on while someone else was paying for everything. On the bright side, I picked up original vinyl copies of Abbey Road and Yellow Submarine for a total of $5 because his idiot wife running their yard sale didn't understand why the old, crappy records were worth anything anyway. And that's how Tinkerbell burned some entitled a hole's life to the ground. The next story is titled, Old Lady Scared the Crap Out of Me. I, 16 male, was on a run around Sunset and heading away from a dead-end street. The dead end overlooks the ocean, and I had just stopped to watch the sun go down as the light quickly faded. I saw a car coming towards me, and so I ran on the grass of the property next to me case the driver couldn't see me or wasn't paying attention. About a quarter mile of the way down the street, this car slows down abruptly next to me and just stops. I thought this person was turning into their driveway and letting me run by first, so I slowed down a bit myself in case they cut me off and abruptly and turned in. I actually smiled and waved at this person because I thought they were letting me go. Instead, the driver just honks at me for like 3 seconds and I nearly fell over because of how unexpected and loud it was. I thought this was probably a drunk group of kids messing with me, so I started to run really fast so I could turn onto another road out of there. Now admittedly, I was under some trees, so it made it a little darker out, but it was still dusk out and the sky was by no means black yet. Like 2 minutes later, just before my turn, the same person shows up with her window down and yells, "Hey! I almost hit you. You really should be wearing reflective gear at this hour," in the most conceited tone possible. I said, "What?" extremely shaken up that she would be so entitled as to say this. I replied with the first thing that came to my mind, which was to say, "I'm actually not required to wear anything while I'm running." She then yells back, "Well, you're ducking stupid not to, a hole." So, I reply by instinct, saying, "You're the one at fault if you hit me." And she started to speed off, so I yelled, "Duck you," because I was seething that she would even bother honking, turning around, and lecturing me when I did absolutely nothing wrong. If you're curious, the lady was probably about 64 years old. Edit. And to be clear, I was nowhere near the road. A solid few feet from the white line. The last story is titled, Girlfriend Parking Problem. Parking on my street is public, but house lots are narrow, so it's somewhat limited. Each house has a single garage, driveway for another car, and enough curbside to for a third, if you're willing to do some shuffling. Neighbors are generally forgiving about the occasional party or family gathering. Our neighbor across the street didn't engage in either. He was a swinging bachelor, with a long string of live-in girlfriends. We didn't care, but this dude always kept his 3 spots filled: garage, storage, driveway, his daily driver, curbside, car that never moved. I guess his girlfriend would park down around the corner. Not much of a gentleman toward his current squeeze, but hey, that's how he operated. Then along came a new girlfriend. I'm not gonna say she was a prima donna, but she was clever, and sure didn't want to park far away to walk back. Apparently, her commute/workday was just perfect, shorter than mine. Each morning, I had to walk past her car, parked directly in front of my house, as I headed down the street to reach my own car and go to work. When I returned in the evening, her car would be there again, parked dead center in front of my house. This went on for weeks. It got old. Because it's public parking, and regulated, there was nothing I could do from a legal standpoint, but I tried to reason with them, to no avail. One day, I arranged with my job to go in a bit late, but I still got up early. How did I occupy my morning? I took the time to move my wife's car out of the driveway, parking about 2 inches behind the girlfriend's rear bumper. Then I carefully parked my car about 2 inches from her front bumper. And I waited. This particular morning, when she came rushing out to hop in her car and zip off to work, a look of astonishment came over her face. It was at this moment that I stepped outside so that we could have another discussion about public parking and what could be considered reasonable. I made it clear that I had plenty of time to talk. But it didn't take long at all. And that was the end of the girlfriend parking problem. Thank you for listening.